Welcome to Inside Operational Minds. This video series focuses on IFC's disruptive technology business in South Asia. We have visited our portfolio companies in their offices and brought to you their stories. Stories that highlight how these businesses are creating new markets and delivering on impact metrics while generating strong financial returns. Each of these examples demonstrates how erupting forces of technology are gradually disrupting the landscape of every industry. Hope you enjoy the series.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruchira Shukla and I'm the regional lead for IFC's investments in disruptive technologies. One of our portfolio companies is Power to SME. Power to SME is focusing on digitizing the small and medium enterprises, the SME community. And they're doing so by creating a platform on which SMEs can buy their raw materials. SMEs are a very important stakeholder in any economy and typically contribute anywhere between 25 to 60% of the GDP. With me is R. Narayan, founder and CEO of Power to SME. Hi Narayan, how are you today?
I'm good, and thank you for coming to my office.
Happy to be here. Let's start with a little bit of background for our viewers. What led you to focus on SMEs?
So in my earlier job, I worked with almost 400,000 SMEs across the length and breadth of the country for various clients of ours. So that was what prompted the deep-rooted interest in the SME segment. And even out of that, what we realized is that going forward, the manufacturing space will play the key role, and therefore we kind of focused heavily on the manufacturing SME segment. So that's what led us there.
Wonderful. And within manufacturing, the piece that most of the SMEs are buying on your platform is raw materials. Raw materials is core to their business, is a category that they're going to be buying frequently across the months, and therefore they're a regular user of your platform. Why did you focus on raw materials?
So, the answer to that is pretty simple. If you analyze the wallet of an SME, manufacturing SME especially, if he's spending $1 million a month, what you'll realize very quickly is that close to 600,000 to 800,000 of that $1 million is actually spent on raw material, on what he procures, right? The rest of it keeps his business running, like wages, rents, utilities, electricity, and all of that stuff. So we decided to focus on the largest chunk of the wallet, where we would try and make a real impact on the SME and, improve his life.
And to make this real for our viewers, let's throw in an example. So let's have an example of a small auto manufacturer in a dusty little town in India looking to buy steel to produce auto engines. And clearly that small guy does not have the ability to reach or negotiate with the large steel suppliers of India. But Power to SME's platform can aggregate demand from several such small auto manufacturers and get them a price at 5 to 7% below they would otherwise gotten.
True. So if you look at in general as a thumb rule, between enterprises and small companies, there is a price difference of 5 to 12% that happens, and that's largely because of economies of scale. Since we're an aggregator, we are able to get those economies of scales and hence that pricing benefit back into the SME. So the SME would see a benefit of anything between 3 to 8% that he gets, which goes straight to his bottom line.
And clearly that value is remarkable, and that's the draw for SMEs to come onto your platform. Power to SME's platform has over 50,000 SMEs registered. And this is remarkable when one considers that while consumers are early adopters of technology, a lot of businesses stay trapped in old economy ways of doing business with pen and paper. So it's heartening to see how well your technology has been adopted by this community.
I mean, the human being is a strange animal. On his personal requirements, on his consumer behavior, for what he does, he goes onto the internet, does all the digital stuff. But when he enters his office, he gets trapped in the same way that he's been running the office for the last 10 years. Right? So change is very difficult because that's livelihood. So now we've looked at this, from a pull and push mechanism. So in terms of pull, what we have done as a platform is we have lured him onto the net by giving him better pricing. And better pricing is better profitability, so that's a great pull that these SMEs have. But what has been happening in India over the last few years is, movements like Digital India, the various tax departments becoming online. So, earlier it was the excise, and today the entire GST filing, returns, everything is online. So there's a bit of pull that is creating, the government is creating a lot of push, which is making it statutory and mandatory for these SMEs to go online. So this combination is working very well in digitizing the small businesses in India today.
Yeah, and in coming online, another benefit is that SMEs are being able to create a digital history of their procurement processes, because every transaction is recorded. And this data is very important for banks and financial institutions looking to lend to SMEs. SME lending has been fairly limited because of a lack of the ability to assess the credit risk of this community.
True. So, I mean, if you look at typically if a bank gets 100 SMEs to work on, they reject almost 82% of that. So they hardly get 10 customers for the effort to put in 100. So what we have done as a platform is, we have this transaction history of how he's been buying and selling and paying, which gives you a great insight into the customer behavior. We have layered this with basically his digital footprint, which is his business performance for the last 2-3 years, his cash performance for the last 3 years, the ratios that his businesses work on. So what happens is the financial institutes get a nice docket, which is complete information about the SME, right? So they are able to take an instantaneous decision on whether to lend or how much to lend to this SME. So that gives the banks a great comfort, and that is what is kind of including the SMEs in financial inclusion, as they say.
Wonderful. So clearly, besides enabling them to buy raw materials at better pricing, which ensures financial viability of these SMEs, you're also enabling lending to this SME platform. IFC's report that we did with IntelliCap shows that there is a huge credit gap in the SME space of the order of $240 billion. And that's because most banks and financial institutions are very comfortable lending to large corporates. They're also very comfortable lending against asset purchases for capital expenditures like land and machinery, but they're very nervous about lending for short-term operating expenditures of the SME community. And Power to SME's platform has therefore created a new market by making short-term financing possible for the small and medium businesses.
Very true, Ruchira. The number that you say, 240 billion, if you actually do a deep dive on that number, you'll realize anything that between 70 to 75% of this number is actually the operating expenses need for this, the working capital need for these SMEs. And that's the market that we are trying to address. And yes, what we're doing is, by creating this marketplace and keeping all these digital documents in place for the banks, we're actually enabling that segment.
Right, and you're doing it through two solutions effectively, right? Through direct lending as well as through your bank partners.
Absolutely.
Let's share some more details on that.
So basically, it's a two-pronged approach. We have a marketplace where we have done a lot of partnerships with large financial institutes, NBFCs, etc., who come and who want customers. So we are serving them no-name customers with nice dockets saying how the customer has behaved over the last couple of years, which enables them lending to these SMEs who they didn't have an approach or an access to at all. On the other side, we have a platform called BizFunds, and BizFunds basically lends on its own to these SMEs. And that's what we do.
Right. So, and both these pieces of your solution, as well as what we talked about on the raw material side, are solutions that could work across other emerging markets. They could be taken beyond beyond the Indian shores, right? Because most emerging markets have a large number of SMEs. They would all have the same challenges in negotiating with large suppliers for their raw materials, and most often they have the same challenge on getting financing from the traditional lending community. So do you see your solutions being used beyond India?
So currently, and IFC has helped heavily in the process in building the credit algorithms and scoring these SMEs, etc. Currently, we're in the process of perfecting this technology so that our credit scoring, the mapping of the SME doesn't go wrong at all. So India is a great learning ground to do this. And then our partnership with IFC, right? IFC has deep understanding and deep insights into all these emerging markets. We hope to partner with you to go to each of these markets and solve their problems too.
Thank you, Narayan. And clearly, our investment in Power to SME is something we see as very core to our strategy, because supporting the SME community will help create jobs for millions of people entering the job market. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure, Rachel.
Thank you, viewers. If you're interested to learn more about Power to SME or about IFC's business in disruptive technologies, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm based in Delhi, and if you're in town, I would love to grab coffee. Thank you.